Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the third part of Trish's auto-RPG, Super Lesbian Animal RPG, stopping just shy of going to the tower after we return to Greenridge. But before we get to all of that, how was everyone's week?
I've been tired and fatigued. Like I said last time, I think I might have some sort of chronic condition in addition to all of the many chronic conditions I've accumulated throughout the years. So I've made an appointment with a doctor.
I hope that goes swell for you.
I hope so too. I'm starting to worry about my own tiredness and fatigue being more and more regular lately.
Yeah, it's not great when it happens.
Yeah, I had it real bad for a long time, and now I have medicine that makes it not so bad, and I hope that there's a medicine that will make it not so bad for you.
Cool.
'Cause
I
it
also spent a lot of time wanting to play Baldur's Gate 3, but not having the time to play Baldur's
same.
Gate 3. I am still so early in that game, and yet I really want to play it. And I also really want to play Armored Core 6. And I want to play Tears of the Kingdom, but I want to replay at least like the main story of Breath of the Wild before I play Tears of the Kingdom. And I want to play Final Fantasy 16. There's so many video games, and video games take so long to play.
Yeah, speaking of games that take a long time to play that I want to play more, I'm currently in a 14-day free trial of Final Fantasy 14. I don't know if I'll beat it, but it would be great to at least get out of the part that's supposed to be free for everyone else, so that I will feel like I'm not throwing away money every time I buy a month of it, because that's silly. But yeah, I have played that first night that I got the trial, and I'm like, this is going to be me now. And then I also started playing Dragon Quest XI in Japanese again, and that's a lot of fun too. And I haven't played a lot of Final Fantasy 14, the one that has a ticking clock.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been playing Dragon Quest XI in Japanese, and it's really good, both as a game and like my comprehension of Japanese is making it less like homework and more like a puzzle that I'm figuring out, which means I'm doing a lot better at it than I was when I tried playing it last time. Which is great,
Fun.
except I should be playing Final Fantasy 14 because that one costs money the whole time that I'm not playing it.
Indeed.
You could just not pay for it and not play it.
That's what
you
I
don't
do.
have to play it.
But I like it.
But if you're not going to have the time to play it,
yeah,
then you don't have to play it.
That's why I don't have an active subscription right now, and I just do the after 90 days. They're like, "Hey, would you like 2 weeks to come back and play it?" And I come back for those 2 weeks, and then I wait for 90 more days, and that's usually how I get through everything, because it's a really good game, but it's a really big game, and I hate playing with other people. And unfortunately, to get through all of the good story beats, you have to put aside 30 minutes where you can't stop being good at the game because people are relying on you, and that's really hard to do with kids and stuff. So I get burnt out on it pretty quickly. So having 2 weeks 2 to 3 times a year is pretty much the perfect pace for Final Fantasy 14 for me.
Nice. I talked all that shit about you don't have to play it, but I just listed a bunch of games that I want to play and don't have time to play.
Yeah, I understand. As for me, let's see here. Aside from the tiredness and the fatigue, which I'm definitely struggling with at least like half of my days last week, which is blood. The new One Piece live action came out, and I haven't watched all of it just yet, but what I have seen is really good. I think it's a really fascinating way to adapt that particular series, in a way that, like, on the whole, with the exception of a few quibbles, I think they did an excellent job translating it. It also might have not accidentally. It is possible it is confirming a theory that one of the characters is trans that has been brewing for a while. So, like, if that happened, that's great.
That's wonderful.
Aside from that, I've also been playing Baldur's Gate 3, like Bernard, wishing I had was able to sit down and do it more often. But last night, after several days of honestly almost a full week of just not playing it, I played for like 6 hours last night, which I was able to do because I found a new setup for my laptop where, I mean, it's still extremely overheating, but now it's not overheating on like a bed or a tray or something. It's heating on a wire rack with a fan, like a box fan directly behind it. So I feel it works better. I also, in the process of playing it for like 6 hours, discovered a mod I tried to install and abandoned because I thought it just hadn't worked when I first started playing. One that allows you to just have basically as big a party as you want and no party size limit. It wasn't working originally, and so I thought I uninstalled it and just moved on. And then I just randomly discovered, oh no, it is working now somehow.
Wild.
So, in addition to the fact that I'm using a mod to increase the level cap to 20 and increasing the experience gain so it's actually possible to reach level 20 within the experience the game gives you, so I'm higher level than I should be for this part of the game, I'm also just going to go into every situation with like twice as many people. So I love it. I'm so excited to just absolutely destroy every encounter now.
It appeals to the power fantasy of having a bunch of people to play D&D with.
Right? Oh, what do you like? Really, 4-person party? I can count on one hand the number of 4-person parties I've been a part of. 6 is the norm.
Oh, I am in the opposite direction.
Oh,
I have one party of 2 and one party of 3, and those are the only ones that have ever made it past session 4 in my entire life. So yeah, I don't have a lot of friends to play D&D with.
same. I mean, I have a lot of friends to play D&D with, honestly. It's just the issue of scheduling. Scheduling is a nightmare beast.
Mm-hmm.
And also one person has to fucking DM, and that's a big commitment.
You mean me?
You mean me?
Hey, I was running our
Lasers and feelings.
Lasers and feelings, except for the last one, which you did.
I killed off all of the crew, but then accidentally killed off the campaign. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. The screen looked like missing no for half a second. And
Cool.
Oh no.
No, it's
That's
back.
fun.
Yeah, it looks like
I
it was
love
just
missing no.
Yeah, one of my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, it looks like it was just like a visual thing in Discord. I don't think my computer's dying. I hope, but I wasn't sure if I was actually here or not.
Speaking of glitches.
Yeah, speaking of glitches, let's talk about Super Lesbian Animal RPG right after these messages.
There aren't any messages.
That's it. That's the message.
Well, last time our characters found themselves on a floating desert island populated by killer robots, not so killer robots, and friendly undead. And after a night's sleep at the inn, our heroes talk to Neff, the mummy, who is waiting outside the inn for them. According to her, Javis's base is pretty easy to spot. It's up in the northwest corner of the island with his name all over it. Heading there to meet her does, in fact, make it clear his name is clearly written all over it.
I really appreciate that they don't draw attention to this gag. Neff just says, yeah, that place has Javis written all over it. Then you get there, and there's not a text box saying, oh, looks like that was literal. It's just like, no, you see it.
You
Yeah.
see it, and it's good.
Maybe I'm used to RPGs with less lean writing.
Indeed. I enjoy as well that they keep the joke just visual and don't feel the need to comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment during that initial conversation where Melody can suggest bringing Allison's mom for help, or can just stay quiet, which is what I did. Allison already has enough insecurity to deal with. There are guards at the door, but Neff gets the party through fairly easily. After all, Javis tried to recruit her recently, and she was able to convince the door guards that Melanie and her friends are just more people being brought in to bolster his forces. The party is a little perturbed to learn that Neff was invited to join the bad guys and hadn't brought it up earlier, but Neff just pushes that aside to focus on the real goal here. There's a staff meeting going on at noon, but the only way in is with an employee ID card. That's the goal of this dungeon. Find the identification necessary to attend a work event. I love this game. Oh, this dungeon, by the way, it's called the Neon Labyrinth, and it has been thoroughly scrambled. That means a lot of strange new enemies, including my personal favorite, the color wheel, but also just a lot of fun/weird things going on. The main mechanic of the dungeon is messing with levels of sand filling the rooms. Very water temple-y, but without the swimming mechanics. Of course, to do that, you actually have to turn on the switches, which requires travel through one of those kind of mazes you'd find on a diner handout for kids. It even has drawings of Melody and Jody on each end of it, as well as drawings of treasure chests in the maze that actually work like real treasure chests and have treasure inside. It's a dumb gag, but I love it.
I love it.
With the switches turned on, you can properly get to collecting the keys, grabbing loot, and otherwise navigating through the dungeon. There are some portions that are actually outside the building in some sort of strange, glitchy, liminal space, and it's in one of those areas that Jodie stops for a second to appreciate the extreme oddity of her surroundings, but in kind of an optimistic way. Allison has a hard time being fazed by any of this, since it's really just par for the course for how things have gone since she found a dungeon in her basement. As it turns out, when they were recapping to Jodie what she'd missed, they completely skipped over the Claire summoning a dungeon part, as something our bunny girl is actually still quite annoyed about. Claire, as always, tries to smooth over the whole thing, and Jodie easily accepts her reasoning that, it was a training dungeon, and so it was totally safe. That cutscene done, you hit the break room where Neff is currently chilling. She hasn't found the ID cards yet, and when Melody asks about the whole recruited to join Javis thing, Neff explains a cloaked figure offered her work for the guy, but she turned it down because it seemed like a pyramid scheme. The characters comment on the humor of this being said by a mummy girl. Anyway, past that, there's an area in the back half of the dungeon where everything is in a very classic Dragon Quest style of graphics, and in the process of heading to a needed chest, you cycle between original Game Boy Green and White graphics, giant versions of the characters, and a redesign that I feel like is meant to be making them look more anime or RPG Maker.
No, it is RPG.
Please tell me.
Maker. It's the default art style. There's a character generator in this version of RPG Maker, and it all makes them in that same little chibi shape. And so they did that, but then did art on top of it to make it actually look like our characters, because I don't think you can be furry in the character generator. But it's definitely the RPG Maker MV or XP or whichever one they're fucking using art style. It's wonderful.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, because I was sure I was missing a reference, and now I know what it was. Excellent. Anyway, you can also go into a slime room, which is like the break room, but for helper slimes. They don't fight you, but they really don't want you there.
I loved that room so much.
I thought, because this game is this kind of game, I thought that if you talked to all of them, the final one would say something. So I strategically talked to every single one, but they all don't say anything important. They all just say, please leave.
And they're moving around, so it's hard to speak to all of them. But yeah, they all just say, "Get the hell out of here."
You do eventually reach the place where the ID cards are being kept, but they are guarded by a horribly glitched mini-boss called the Singularity. After you take that down and get the keys, you can warp back to the start of the dungeon and head to the backstage area. This involves passing by the core for this facility, similar to the one you found in the first glitchy dungeon. There's some debate as to whether they should just destroy the core and make the dungeon vanish, but they decide not to. After all, if they could attend the meeting, they could get some valuable information. Before heading in, though, they read the computer connected to the core, and it reveals quite a bit. These cores are actually Verona Empire reality scramblers. They're powered by magic from the Empire's ruler, Queen Verona, and literally work by taking apart the fabric of reality around them and shifting it into a new configuration that better suits the Empire's needs. Even worse, the effect spreads the longer they're active, and with enough of them in the right positions, they can scramble an entire planet, then its solar system, and then beyond even that. This is scary as hell to the party, who cannot understand how that is even possible. This is a level of magic far beyond anything they've even ever heard of. When Melody tries to look for more answers, she hits a wall, leaving them with no choice but to head in and join the meeting. They sneak in, and Javis happily explains to his minions just exactly what their mission here is, since some of them are completely unaware. Their goal here is the planet of Reverie itself, with a special focus on the Sapphire Islands. And this is due to reasons personal to the Queen that Javis is not going to get into here. He also explains the beast folk that populate most of the area, but he calls them Harries because they're covered in hair. Next, he explains the 3 scramblers they've set up. One on this floating island, where everyone currently is, one on the highest mountain peak of the archipelago, and one under Greenridge. Sure, the party messed with that one earlier, but it's already been repaired, and in a few hours, it's going to be turned on once more. While the party is discussing just how bad that is and how they have to get back to Greenridge as soon as possible, Javis starts addressing how, yes, he has failed previously in some other dimensions, but this time it's going to be different.
Without Galcian's orders, he'll succeed. All his previous failures were from Galcian's commands.
Exactly. Oh god, he does have Alfonso energy, doesn't he? I don't know, I think he's a little more competent than Alfonso.
Yeah.
Anyway, a figure emerges, and it's that caped one that Jody was following, and the one who tried to recruit Neff. It's Paula, Allison's shitty coworker. But it's not just her either, since Javis reveals that he has used his own essence to create 4 sons to help out. Bigby, Killer Ray, Clinston, and Roy. If anyone has issues with nepotism, Javis doesn't want to hear it, even if his sons are literally only days old. But even those allies aren't all he wants to draw attention to. No. More than anything else, he has to thank the person who is the reason this operation even exists, the one who drew their attention to Reverie to start with, Claire Higsby. He gives credit to a certain spellbook in her possession and says that Claire summoned them here. Oh, also he knows the party is in the audience and puts a spotlight on them. He's known about their presence in the dungeon this entire time, and reveals that the entire point of this dungeon was to draw them away from Greenridge so that they couldn't interfere with them again. He teleports them to a strange glitchy area that kind of looks like a cliff at sunset. And Allison confronts Paula about why she would join these guys. Paula says that she has her reasons, but that Allison would never understand them. She just hopes Allison survives long enough for Paula to get a chance to kick her ass. The bad guys all teleport out so they can handle the whole Greenridge thing, leaving the party to fight a Gumball Goliath. This thing spits out little gumball creatures every turn, each type of which has a different status effect it can give to the party, plus the main Goliath hits like a fucking truck. I lost half my party before finally managing to finish this fight. It was pretty rough. That said, it probably would have been easier if I had remembered that the Magical Girl spellbook has an aura for the whole party that protects them against status effects.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I have magic missile and lightning kicks, and
I didn't have lightning kicks by that point, and so that would have been very. I've been skipping random battles when I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, don't do that.
I just want to get to the next story stuff.
Yeah, I feel
But anyway, with that done, the party has time to discuss what they just learned. Allison is fully ready to blame Claire for this entire mess, but Claire maintains that she doesn't know how this could have happened. She took every precaution in her actions. This really isn't her fault. Jody backs her up, and it's up to you whether Melody agrees with Allison, agrees with Claire and Jody, or just tries to stop the fight without taking a side. I chose not to blame Claire because, I don't know, Melody's nice, and I don't think she'd want to say her friend was responsible for this disaster.
Yeah, same.
I tried saying, let's not fight, because my thinking was that figuring out who to blame isn't productive here.
Agreed.
However, phrasing it that way, it turns out, is a little too wise and assertive for Melody. So that's not what Melody ended up saying.
I think that's what I said my first time playing, and if I remember correctly, it comes out as something more like, it feels very wishy-washy, and I just don't want to make anyone feel bad.
Yes, that's how it comes out.
Anyway, regardless of whose fault this is, they have to get to Glitchridge. The only issue, they don't have a way out of here. Melody thinks to try and use her Purify spell, but when it doesn't work immediately, Allison tries to soothe her into giving up. Melody refuses and pushes herself hard, getting the spell to work and earning them a way out. Once out, they head to the core and smash it, destroying the dungeon. That done, they head to the teleporter, but it has also been smashed.
They not start to get working.
And it's every time.
I feel like I'm missing a reference.
You are.
No, I'm curious. What are you referencing?
It's some random comedian's. He has a Type 5 where he talks about going to the Coin Star and it's not working.
And it's
every time. And it's funny.
I am very out of touch with stand-up comedy these days. I should.
I mean, me too. This is from like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, the true reference is that Maddie and Bernard think that it's funny, and therefore it's also funny to me. And now it's become a us meme more than a actual reference to the stand-up comedy.
An us meme.
I'm in the
some
us
sort of
group
joke
now.
Only for an inside group.
Yeah.
We could call it an inside joke, maybe.
No, it's an us meme.
It's an us meme. Amazing. Anyway, they start to get really worried, and when someone brings up that maybe they could use Allison's mom's new flying car, Allison points out it's a two-seater, so that's not going to work. They go back to... since Ipsy back in Mumford was able to repair Glyph, they wonder if maybe she could fix the teleporter. It turns out she can, but it would take time they don't have. However, there's a more expedient solution. The island has a second teleporter to the Sapphire Islands. However, it's in an area that Glyph doesn't like. Heading there, it turns out the old thing still works, but it's out of power. The only way to turn it on is to flip 4 switches simultaneously, meaning the party is going to have to split up to handle it. Oh, and to make things worse, there's a mana leak. Pure gaseous mana. The levels aren't something that would be extremely dangerous, but too much mana can still make someone sick, so everyone grabs walkie-talkies so they can be in contact even after splitting up. After Claire and Jody leave, Allison asks Melody if she's really up for this. She's noticed that Melody has been on edge ever since Javis's encounter. It's up to you how Melody responds to this, with positivity, with pessimism, or with irritation at Allison not having faith in her. I chose the last one because, I can be mean sometimes, and I like drama. Anyway, Melody heads in, and there are robots shrouded in darkness. But you don't have to worry, because they just run away after a single hit. Once you fight one of them, Melody will check in with everyone else, who confirm that they're also finding them in their areas. Heading further in, Melody finds a room that just seems to repeat endlessly, and when she calls on the walkies for help, there's nothing. She assumes maybe there's some sort of pattern, some sort of reason to this, but there isn't. No matter what you do, it just keeps repeating. And when she starts to retreat to try to clear in her head, it just keeps going back to the same room over and over and over again. Until finally, Melody isn't alone anymore. There's a second Melody following her. When Melody notices and confronts this second her, the doppelganger snidely insults her for taking so long to notice. Melody immediately assumes that this was some copy made by Javis to mess with her, but that isn't the case. The room disappears, and now the two stand in a heart-shaped cosmic void. This other figure is Melody, but she also isn't. She's that dark figure from the ritual, the one who was watching her back then. She's been with her, a part of her, for a while now. She describes herself as a blob of magical energy, originally completely thoughtless and formless, stagnant, but when she made contact with Melody, she became a reflection of her. This reflection, who after a while decides to take on the name Harmony, so that's what I'm going to call her, calls herself the voice in the back of Melody's head, the one who gives her advice. Harmony criticizes Melody up and down for her choices, by which I mean for your choices. What type of paladin she is, how she handled the Claire reveal. She digs into all of Melody's recent decisions and paints a picture. Melody is a pathetic person desperately trying to reinvent herself, to make herself interesting, to make other people happy. She isn't a hero, she isn't a paladin, and she hates herself. The only way she was even able to get magic was by cheating, and all of this is only something that happened because Claire tried to help her by making a training dungeon. Oh, and Allison? She just pities her. She doesn't really believe Melody can do anything of note. She's just waiting for Melody to fail so they can call it quits and go back home. All of this causes Melody to have a full-on panic attack by the end of the conversation, at which point we cut to her being in the room with the switch, her friends all around her. They've been able to hear her this entire time and try to take her out of there. Her body was already having to adjust to a big infusion of mana from Claire's ritual, so it seems like the mana leak gave her a particularly bad reaction. How much of what she saw and what she experienced was a hallucination? Who knows? They take her out for fresh air, and Ipsy handles her part for the switch pulling. I'm just gonna pause real quick to say I just fucking love this scene so much, and I'm really tempted to just like record a version of it, just like voice acting it, because God, it's so good.
It's fantastic.
After a while, the power is restored, and Melody seems to be feeling better. Crying and hugs from Glyph helped. But when Allison asks if she wants to talk about what she saw, what she's going through, Melody tells her no and sweeps it under the rug. After all, they have to get to Greenridge. Allison pushes, warning against burnout, which only makes Melody snap at her. Turns out the teleporter takes them to a beach not far from town. On the way, you can run into the same guy who gave you free Soleil merchandise before. He's now selling stuff on the beach. You can buy tropical shirts, which are actually pretty good armor, which has led to, I'm going to find and link at some point, there is fan art of the whole party wearing those tropical shirts. Yeah, this guy, I guess, has multiple part-time jobs and has no idea about what's happening in Greenridge right now because he's been here all day working. You can also peek into the lighthouse, which has a door that'll take you to the astral plane. Speaking of which, I haven't mentioned the astral plane in any of my recaps so far, and we haven't even brought it up in the meaningful moments. So just to cover that, it's a plane of pure magic that exists alongside the material plane. There are astral doors that can take you there, dotted through the world, which allow for quick travel between different spots. And there is one in Greenridge, but if you try to get there through the astral plane, the way is blocked, which is another bad sign to the party. And it really should be, because when you get to Greenridge, you find it has been rewritten and is now Glitchridge.
Great.
Claire starts to freak out as it now is really starting to hit her just what her actions have caused, especially worrying about Beverly and how she's doing. Monsters show up, but before a fight can start, the Paladin Brigade arrives.
The Pangolin Brigade.
The Pangolin Brigade. They've been evacuating the residents of this town to a camp on the beach and give the party some warp stones to teleport anyone they find over there. This is their chance to prove that they're actually worthy adventurers. They also confirm to Claire that no, they haven't seen Beverly so far. Faith is at the tower, where it seems like the enemy is concentrating their forces. The Paladins head out, leaving the Novas to save those left behind before trying to fix this mess. There's a lot here, and so much of it is strange and glitchy and beautiful, honestly. But the points of interest are saving Mona in the library, whose chair teleports out with her, those two shop kids, who were entirely ready to stay and just be a shop, despite the fact their store is extremely hard to get to, what with the current situation of the town, and Beverly, who has a very tender scene with Claire. She has been crying on the floor of her diner, freaking out about this entire thing, which is understandable. And Claire does her best to comfort her while apologizing. She finally tells Beverly that she cares about her a lot, which Beverly doesn't seem to realize is a confession. So Claire just tells her they'll talk about it later and teleports her out. You can also find the Leone family, the one who've been selling the spell books, being menaced by monsters, but they don't need rescuing. Pepper seems to be able to handle this situation fine. With all of that done, you can head to the tower, only to find Paula is there in a sick new outfit, one that Javis apparently made for her. She once again refuses to explain why she chose to join the Verona Empire, but this time she says that once Verona arrives, the party will start to question their loyalties too. Still, it isn't time for that fight just yet. She teleports away and leaves the party facing an impassable glitch wall. They discuss how they could get into the tower, when Claire has an idea. The basement dungeon. There is a cave system it connected to, which is adjacent to the underground part of the tower, so there might be a way to get inside there. With the resolve to keep continuing on and to stop Verona from being summoned, we leave the storming of the tower itself for next time.
So let's listen to some more music and then talk about our memorable moments for this week. What are both of your memorable moments to start with?
So when I was exploring Glitchridge, I randomly examined a couch, and
oh yes,
Jody said, "This is not the time to be digging through the couch cushions." And then it says, "You found 2,000 gold," and Melody says, "Holy shit!" And Jody says, "I stand corrected."
Which is also notable because Melody does not usually swear.
Mm-hmm. And you don't usually get things for examining couches.
You can at the very beginning of the game. Melody's couch has money in it.
Yeah.
But it's only like 100.
But most couches aren't treasure chests.
It's a good joke. I mean, there are definitely times where I've looked through a couch and been like, "What the? How is there this much coinage stuck in here?"
Mm-hmm. I this week continue to be super impressed at the bending and breaking of the RPG Maker engine over its knee without just custom coding a whole new thing in Ruby or whatever coding language. Like everything here is something that I could technically do in RPG Maker without having to know anything fancy, but it's still super cool. Like, did you get the machinist subclass?
Oh yes,
spellbook? It's
yes,
so cool. So when you kill robots, you get their spare parts, and they've just been sitting in your bag, and it's like, trust me, these will be important one day. And that day is when you get the machinist spellbook, and whoever uses it, instead of using MP or star power or HP or potions, you use the spare parts to like build things, in those things do spells and whatnot. It's like, it's really cool.
It's very cool.
I like it mechanically because instead of doing damage calculations, the damaging attack does a flat 300 damage no matter what, and the defend there's a defend for one character and a defend for the party, and
Mhm.
each of them only reduce damage by a flat 50.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. I've actually never played around with that spell book for some reason. I just have like I can't take the Magical Girl spell book off of Melody. I don't know why. I just have to have it on her at all times. The other
Yeah.
ones I'll play around with a little bit. The spell book I was playing around with the most this time was the Chronomancer one, which is one you can buy from Mumford, which is a really good spell book, if only for it has a buffing spell that gives someone 2 attacks per turn and increases their speed a lot.
Uh-huh.
Oh
And
my.
we start to get the point in the game where people joke that you just do the setup by giving Allison all of the buffs. You
Mm-hmm.
kiss her, you
Uh-huh.
give her the speed up, you use the attack boost. I believe there's more things you can give her later, and you just combine all these things on Allison, and she just destroys everything.
Yeah. So I have been doing that, and so first turn, unfortunately, you can't get the attack boost off Claire because it costs star power. So on your first turn, you get Claire to do some spell and maybe suss out the enemy's weakness, and you get Allison to elementally charge her weapon. You get
Mm-hmm.
Melody to give it a kiss, and you get Jody to give her haste. And so then the rest of the time, because Allison's gimmick was removed from the game, so Allison basically just hits hard, and that's it, which is fine, because if you do the setup, you get to do like 400 damage twice in a turn, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great, and I love it.
Agreed. The other one, did you either of you find the glitch spell book in
I
Glitchridge or
did.
Glitchridge?
I did.
It's
I did not equip it. I have a feeling that something bad happens if you equip it, and you're not
oh,
supposed to do it.
I gave it to Claire because Claire 100% seemed like she was itching to try it, so I had to.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, it is worth it. It's the only spellbook that gives you electricity attacks, which are
Mhm.
useful, unless you count the lightning one from the spell blade. But that's a buff onto someone's regular attack, not just a spell attack.
Mhm.
And then there's the thing that does a random amount of damage and also can corrupt your enemies, which is useful. And it has a healing spell that heals for a random amount,
Mhm.
which is it's very fun and weird and silly. And I especially love when you find it, them all being like, oh, something bad happened to this spell book. And Claire's like, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, which I think is Jody goes, there's a mouth?
Yeah.
I mean, that reminded me of that problem sleuth thing where they do a attack that does a random amount of damage, and through some insane calculations, it's rolling a D50 trillion, and it rolls a 1.
Yeah, that's about right.
Oh. Yeah, cycling back to the Harmony scene where Melody has a full-on panic attack. I just adore it a lot. It's so representative of when you're in a really bad space and it just feels like there's a part of you in your head that is 100% ready to jump to the worst possible interpretation of yourself at all times,
Mhm.
and it's just unrelenting. And the also just like the cyclical nature of self-esteem and anxiety, and how when you're struggling with those things, it can lead to you having outbursts or like visibly struggling in front of other people. And that sometimes the way people react to that is by kind of coddling you, or like they're trying to be comforting and caring and nice, but the way it can read to you is, oh, they're babying me because they can't take me seriously. I have to have my hand held. Like it reinforces your own anxieties and your own self-esteem issues. And I think that's just so perfectly illustrated in that scene. And I also I adore how, like, I don't feel like the game throws it in your face the way some other games I play do, which I don't mind. I enjoy it when a game does that, but like the way it will pick up things you have done in this game and use them as fodder for her inner anxiety to yell at her about it.
I do love going to jail in Chrono Trigger.
Exactly. This is a real going to jail and Chrono Trigger moment. Also, the fact that she names herself Harmony is pretty neat. Especially, I don't know. I'm just gonna preface this. I know nothing about music theory. I am completely illiterate in that particular form of academia. But from what I was able to find, namely asking my sister, who is someone who knows something about music, uh, the fact that harmonies require, two different sounds that complement each other, and a harmony needs a melody to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, pretty. I got to give the creator props. That was really smart naming on their part.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Also, I love the Neon Labyrinth. It's such a weird, cool dungeon, and the fight music for it is running in the 90s, or at least has elements of running in the 90s. I think I might be just hearing that when it isn't there, but that's what I'm hearing.
I do not remember thinking that. Let me look it up and see if I can find that track and see if I can hear it as well. Oh God, what would that track be called?
You never know, because I love the names of the tracks in this game, but they're sometimes a little difficult to tell what they're supposed to be.
Would it be
Let's
Labyrinth Rave
see.
Original 998? No, it's Fighting in the 990s.
It's fighting in the 990s. Okay, so I am right.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it definitely quotes it a little bit.
Yeah.
I somehow did not pick up on it.
Also, just Glitchridge, the way they take that familiar town that you spent some time in and twist it horribly is the way that it combines so many of the houses into basically one weird mega house that connects all these parts of the town that should not be connected. Also, I didn't bring it up, but you can run into that helper slime who's trying to sculpt a statue of Queen Verena, but it's still just a giant block of marble.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't spoil you on what Verena looks like. I don't know. It was a cute.
It's really good.
Oh, yeah, I feel like this is the part of the game where it's really starting to get into, like, I mean, there's the really in-your-face stuff with Melody, but also we have hit a point in the story where Claire's ability to hide from the consequences of her actions is really starting to fall away. And she's going to have to admit that, like, she fucked up. And she keeps fucking up.
Mm.
And that Beverly deserves better.
I don't listen. I don't know if I'm gonna say Beverly deserves better. I think they're cute together. That said, I can't remember if I mentioned this before. I have found there's art of Claire, Claire, Melody, Allison as a throuple, and I'm like, shit, that works. At least the person who writes those comics, it really works.
Yeah, that's the vibes I was getting at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, once we get to a point where I think that is, I will share those with you once we finish the game because I don't want to accidentally spoil anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, next time we're gonna be seeing what the whole Queen Verena thing is, and oh gosh, yeah, we're getting into a big part of the game now.
Yeah, I'm super excited on it. I don't know when we'll be stopping, but it'll probably be in a hot minute because me and Bernard already played like an extra hour or two of this game because it's good and we didn't want to stop.
I will tell you, the stopping point is there is a point. I think it's technically. We're finishing Act 3. We're in Act 3 right now. We're going to finish Act 3, and there's a point in Act 4 where the game is basically like, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Looking at a spoiler-free guide, the one on the Steam, it seems to be when we get the dragon key. So I think that's where we'll be stopping next week, is after the dragon key.
either that or going through the mandatory thing. I don't think it's going to be there. Yeah, the dragon key leads to a whole section, which I guess you saw the word dragon key. I could say involves a dragon. Get through that bit, and then the game is basically like do whatever you feel like. And at that point, the dragon key might be the point you're thinking of. I might be misremembering, but either way, when we get turned loose, and then we can have a whole episode about the optional content, because there's a lot of optional content.
Mm-hmm. So
there's a Chrono Trigger amount of optional content.
Awesome. So yeah, that will do it for this week. And if you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us cover the costs of running the show and making it better and better. Setting up a recurring monthly donation also infers additional... I did it again. It was in my notes. Bernard caught me and made fun of me the last time I read this, and because I said infers, and I copied and pasted it from the wrong one. Setting up a recurring monthly donation also confers additional benefits. If you donate $1 or more a month, you can get access to our bonus feed, as well as access to our polls and to decide what game we play next on the main feed. If you donate $5 or more a month, we will also shout out your name on every episode, just like this. Shout outs to It's Claire Time, Frosthair, Dragon Slayer 19, Floris, Kaledron, Freddie Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, JFro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, if you love us so much that you donate $20 or more each month, you also get to make me say a sentence of your choosing, to plug something, or just make me say something. Shout outs to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, reviews for people like us by people like us. Shout out to Vimke, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia. Please just play the game. Just play Legend of Legaia. Make them happy. And then shout out to Carr, who's a dentist, who isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day. Most importantly, the time before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.